Let me paint you this picture. You get so excited because you see this job opening and you know in your soul, you are the perfect fit. You check out the company, you check out the people on LinkedIn, and you know, like, these are my people. This is where I want to work. You submit your resume, and then it's... Friends, we have all been there. Trust and believe, we have all been there. So let's talk about how you can update your resume to increase your chances of landing your dream role or client. So in my last video, I shared my LXD job description, remember? So here's some key takeaways. Relationship building, marketing and out-of-the-box thinking, decent amount of corporate experience and background, and 4, really being able to be a good writer. Those things in mind, let's take a look at these resumes. So in this resume, we have a transitioning teacher. What they have here is more information about that would be applicable to working with students. Like, legit, they're literally just teaching right now. And that's really great, and I'm really hopeful that, like, they can find a job. However, this particular role is just not going to be the right fit. While I do believe that teaching and instructional design have very much transferable skills, like managing craziness, check. Managing subject matters that go rogue, check. There just is some things that you learn from the corporate background when you have corporate background, just some things about like how to read the politics of what might be happening in the room that just affect the way that you show up. For example, I worked with someone that used to be in the classroom that used to work in higher ed too. We were working with one of our clients and she kept getting frustrated about an issue happening with the CEO. And I said, look, here is what just happened in that meeting that I took for granted that you might have seen, but this is what was happening. This person and this person are butting heads because of X, Y, and Z. They are struggling internally to get what they need done. And this person is, dealing with some politics and dealing with external factors, dealing with raising money, like all these other things that are affecting them, their working relationship, but affecting us and getting our job done. It has nothing to do with you because, they were taking it personally. Truly, nothing to do with you. It's just a matter of all the politics and all of the things behind the scenes. Now, not to say that you don't have to deal with politics in the school system, because frankly, there's a lot of politics that happens there. It's just a little bit different. The mindset is just a little different. And I also love being able, with my different background in different industries, I'm able to pull what's working well in certain industries and say, hey, this company that has this demographics has been able to achieve this result using this strategy. Do you want to try that as well? When you don't have that background or experience because you were working with students and it's not like a 1-for-1, it's a much harder sell to a customer. Doesn't mean there isn't the right role out there for you. You just need to think about it a little bit differently. Let's look at the next one. Okay, has some corporate experience, but in their bullets, I'm not seeing a lot of results. I'm just seeing a lot of tasks. And at this level of, learning experience designer, we're looking for someone that can achieve results, right? That can help our clients see results. Often L&D is looked at as an expense on the P&L statement, not necessarily, something that actually brings in revenue. We have to show our value to our customers, right? We have to show our value to our client and say, because you did this, here are all the other areas in which it helped to impact. So that's what I would love to see you from your resume as well. Because you did these tasks, what was the impact, right? Were you more efficient in certain areas? Created a whole handbook. We'll take an example for me. I created a whole handbook for office managers in an old company that I worked at. My results from creating that very first iteration of the handbook is that now at every single satellite location, we had a process, a repeatable process that every single office could use in order to achieve the same results. What was happening before was that the office manager in Maryland versus me in Jersey were submitting things totally differently. So the people at the headquarters had to get used to how I submitted it versus how they submitted it. And, it just all was kind of all over the place. So instead I sat down and I wrote out, this is how I do things, and they accepted it as like, this is the one process, so everything is doing things the same. right? That is the story that I want to tell my resume. Not just the fact that I created a handbook for office managers, like cool, but like because you created that handbook for the office managers, what was the end result? Created a handbook for office managers to produce repeatable process, no matter which which satellite office, and as part of the process when we opened up new offices. That tells me more of a story. That shows me that you're also going to be forward thinking and see a gap and say, you know what, I'm not going to just say like, hey, there's a problem. I'm actually going to go and come up with a solution and then share that with you and say, hey, what if we tried this? I love solution oriented people, and that's one way to prove it. So again, look at all your tasks. Because you did those tasks, you were able to achieve something. What were you able to achieve? What would I go about updating this resume? So in this resume, what I would do is actually go back to my job post and pull in some of the key words from my job post and match them in my actual resume. Different. I know what you mean by this versus that, and I can make those distinctions. But again, that is not going to be the case for so many. And when you're screening so many applications, they're not going to realize that you said this and you actually meant that. So make sure you're looking at the job post and inputting some of those keywords into your resume. So what can you do next time you're crafting your resume? First, I want you to not rush the process. I know that crafting your resume can feel very daunting, and we want to utilize, samples and even ChatGPT, which by the way, should I do a video on ChatGPT and resumes? Give this video a thumbs up if you think that I should. So we want to be more efficient with our time and not have to craft something for every single job. I get it. Your time is totally precious and I value that. Like, I'm here for it, sister. I get it. My time is precious too, and I don't like wasting time. However, when you want to submit your resume for a job, you always want to put your best foot forward. So take the time to stop and breathe and think. Take the time to like step back and really ask yourself, like, as a hiring manager, what am I seeing when I'm looking at this resume, and how can I make it come to life? Or take your resume and provide it to a colleague that's going to give you the real deal and the skinny and really give you actual good feedback and say, hey, do you mind, reviewing my resume? So really think about like the outcomes that you were able to achieve because of the tasks that you did. The other thing that I would recommend, if you can find this sort of information, but please don't make it up, is any quantitative results. So we love to see numbers. We love to see that you increase efficiencies by 10%, 20%, whatever the case may be. If you were able to, come up with some of those quantifications, please do so. It really does add a lot of light to your resume. It's one of the things that we will like zero in on as you're like initially scanning, right? Like, because you're not used to seeing percentages and results on a resume. You're used to seeing more tasks. So when I see a number and a percentage, I want to stop and really like absorb what it is that you are saying in that sentence and what it is that you were able to achieve. Here's the other thing with your resume. Do not feel the necessity to lead with your education. So this is another mistake that I'm seeing in a lot of resumes, is that they start with their education and then they go into the job tasks. It's great that you went to school and all of those things, but I prefer more the job tasks and what you did in your roles over your education. I want to know where you went to school. I want to know more about you. Like, I'm planning on hiring you. We're going to be getting to know each other very well. And maybe, you went to a school that I applied to, or you went to a school that I went to school at. So I want to know those things and I want to see your degree. Maybe your degree has nothing to do with learning and development. So I want to know more about your story. How did you get from political science all the way over to learning and development? Want to know that, but don't lead in with that, right? We want to get down to the dirty. We want to know more about you, right? We want to know more about what you've been doing at work, because that's the actual skills. We know like college is great, but they ain't teaching you what you need to be doing at your job, especially when it comes to learning and development. The next thing is putting your GPA when it comes to your resume. You can leave the GPA off. Like, this industry, we don't need to know that information. It's like a waste of space. I do, however, love a good space. I wouldn't go to a third page for it, but if you have like volunteer activities that you do, I want to know more about that. When I started in my career, I didn't have any managerial experience. When I'm applying to jobs that, where I might be managing people, I knew I was at a disadvantage because I had no managerial experience. However, because of the roles that I had taken on through my volunteer work, I was actually managing volunteers. And let me tell you something, as someone that still manages volunteers to this day, it is harder to manage volunteers than to manage employees. But that was something that I was able to bring to the conversation. So did I get passed over on some things? I'm sure. But there were certain jobs that I was able to have a conversation. And when we talked about managing people, I would talk about that and say, hey, I'm president of my local alumni group, and I have to manage all of these volunteers. And it's actually really hard. And let me tell you why. And let me tell you the strategies that I utilize in order to motivate my volunteers to do something. So if you happen to be the president of your local ATD chapter, put that on your resume. We want to see that. And here's the other thing. If you just like volunteer for like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or just anything, like put that in your resume. You are a whole person. You are not just a robot meant to just go around working all day. And so you never know when that person may have a connection to that organization, or it just might be some way to break the ice. Remember what I said earlier about what was so important that I posted, relationship building? Well, if you put something on there about something that you like to do, your volunteer experience, that's a conversation that you could have with that, with the person that you're interviewing with. And that's a way to break the ice before you really get down to the nitty gritty and have to like answer all the questions and worry that, they're going to give you a question that you're not truly prepared for. Things like that. It's just a way to help warm you up and start to build that relationship. Whenever I work with clients, subject matter experts, when I, meet people for the first time that are prospective clients, I always start with breaking the ice and learning more about them and learning more about where they're from, what they did that day, because these are all different ways I am starting to build up trust, build up the relationship between the two of us. Having that space on your resume definitely helps out. And so I want you to take your resume and I want you to look at it with a critical eye. Am I putting my best foot forward? The only thing I had in order to land that job was my resume. Is it all there? Can I honestly say I laid it all out on the table and here it is. This is my background. This is why you should hire me. This is what I was able to achieve, and here is my story. If you want more information about why you might not be getting hired that doesn't have anything to do with your resume, check out this video right here where I deep dive all the reasons that you might not be getting the call back. It's not all about you. Sometimes it's just about us. Don't worry, friend. You will get a job. You will end up in instructional design or wherever you are meant to be. And it was lovely to see you, and I will see you next week where we're going to be continuing this conversation all about resumes and job hunting. Peace out, Cub Scout.